TradersPost on this October 29th, 2024, day of our Lord. And what a day it is with Bitcoin up and me not in my trade. How's it going, Mike?
Don't relish in the disappointment for too long, Tom. There's another one coming.
It's an interesting life for a retail trader when you find yourself, oh, I'm up 40%, I should be happy, but I could have been up 150%, and you want to sort of jump off a roof. Look, it's
well,
not
if it makes you feel any
better,
if it makes you feel any better, remember I got involved in Bitcoin in 2012 when it was less than $1 per. So who lost on the opportunity cost here? I did not go heavy in 2012.
I love the idea here of just looking at the chart, just keep moving up, and just hoping now for it to just pull back and for everyone else to have the pain so I can have the joy. And it's a Schadenfreude that I'm going to be eager for if the price pulls back significantly. But I don't know. Next time I'm just going to be like, I'm going to use this as an excuse to hold the trade, and then I'm going to lose there too. So it's like the market's out to get me.
That is often the fear, is that the market is after us.
All right, perfect. So we have plenty of great questions that came up this week for office hours. But before we start that, I would like to, as usual, just thank the ambassadors that we have for TradersPost. They do such a great job of answering questions within our Discord, and we just love to see them there. So special shout out to Jonathan S. and Chris, who have been pretty active recently, especially Jonathan. I also want to mention that we just posted online that we do have a special running, a holiday special running for Halloween, 30% off for new subscribers on annual plans, which is great. Now, it's a great time for you to go, and if there's people inside your entourage who would like to sign up to TradersPost, it's a you might want to nudge them in the right direction, because we do have a referral program, and if you have people who sign up under you, you'll be able to get a nice little kickback as a thank you for giving them a little nudge. So please keep that in mind. Plenty of people are happy with our affiliate program. All right, so start off here. We had, before we go into the questions, there was a post that I really liked on Discord. This user was saying, connected my first Top Step account. I don't know, I feel accomplished, tested my algo for months and building, and then finally finding a way to put it into action. Last night was a good paper test of the process. Let's put this baby into action, which I love. I've seen Mr. Wicks inside of the Discord chat for a little while now, and it's great to see people take that sort of mentality that we really want them to have, right? Mm-hmm. We don't really want people to be flying by the seat of their pants and just clicking willy-nilly. Like, the whole point is that we want people to have these consistent results that they can measure and test and deploy over time, and then do that again and again for multiple different strategies. So it's right. It was very heartwarming to see it.
One thing that I picked up this week, and just thinking through all my back tests and doing a lot of analysis on how my strategy changes over time, the one that I'm running right now for prop firms, is that when I start the strategy makes a great deal of difference. And so what I figured out was, if Top Step allows me to have up to 5 accounts at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily want to run all of those at the same time. I'd want to start one on week 1, then start the second on week 2, start the third on week 3, start the fourth on week 4, and fifth on the fifth as well. And then that way they're staggered each week. And so they're starting at different starting points, which gives me a little bit better of odds that one of those might have been the exact wrong time to start the strategy, which was almost the one I'm in right now. I've had about a $1,500 drawdown on a $50,000 account. So I'm like $500 shy of the maximum loss limit, and it's starting to pick back up today. It's in a really, really good trade, and it's picking up a lot of those profits again. But imagine now I start the next one tomorrow and it's already continuing this bull trend. It's already on the right side of the trade. So I think staggering them is another idea to consider if you're trading multiple prop firm accounts at the same time. And of course, that would just be as simple as connecting all 5 of those prop firm accounts on TradersPost, and then starting the first alert for one strategy, starting the second one a week later, and so on and so forth.
It's so fascinating, the setups that the prop firms provide you. I mean, there's all kinds of different setups you can have within the markets, and it depends on your time frame, on the asset you're trading, on the derivative you're trading. And now we have this prop firm sort of like variable to play in the mix. I keep thinking that every year that I've gotten a pretty good handle of what retail traders need to think about when they're trading, and then boom, something comes out of the blue and we have to do this. And so on one hand we have the prop firm, and then the other hand we have the AI Cambrian explosion that allows for all kinds of new data to be parsed and integrated inside of a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you told me, I was like, I think 6 months ago or last year, I was like, oh, we're not going to really have like much to talk about with new subscribers or users of the platform, because it'll just plateau and it'll just be the same things all the time. There won't be anything new. And you're like, no, Tom, there's going to be new things
There's like a
constantly.
million different ways to do this.
That's right. We just barely scratched the surface.
Yep.
All right. So next up, the first question we have is, would TradersPost ever set up a trade copier to copy trades across my own subscription accounts? Now, I wasn't entirely sure the use case that a user would have for this. I know there has been some discussion or people asking about copy trading in general,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess I want to put it to you. Like, have you seen any circumstance where it would be useful for someone to have a copier system within their account as opposed to subscribing to a strategy again and again?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely several scenarios that we've considered there, and it is technology that we would like to expand on. Let me elaborate and like sort of clarify the scenario that we're describing here. I believe this user is referring to an environment where they're trading inside their own account, let's say Tradeovate, for example, and they hit a buy button, they execute an order, and TradersPost is over here listening to that account. And the moment that the trade executes, we pick up that trade activity and replicate it or copy it out to other accounts that that user has subscribed. So that trade copying functionality requires that we're listening to all these broker accounts in real time. That's not something we currently do. Right now, everything our system relies on is an event-driven signal. So you send the trade data to TradersPost, and we can copy that out to as many accounts as possible. In the interim of using that or having that kind of trade copier functionality, we're trying to improve the way that traders can execute trades on our platform by enhancing the way our submit trade functionality works. And so the way that I could, in theory, see people using this is you've got TradersPost open in one window on the right hand side, and then you've got your charts open on the left hand side. And when you know it's time to enter a trade, you start preparing your order panel on the right hand side in TradersPost. And that order would then get executed with your broker and then copied to any other subscriptions that are tied to that. So in theory, you can still use TradersPost as a trade copier, but the trade has to be executed from our platform. In the future, like I said, we'll explore the idea of listening for trade activity at the broker level.
It doesn't matter how many meetings I'm in here at TradersPost. It seems to me that the pool of features and options that could be added to the platform just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the dance that you and John have to go to decide what to actually focus on and what to put on seems to become more and more dangerous as we go along, because as not dangerous in the sense of bad, but dangerous in the sense of you can go really far in a particular direction and then cater to a certain type of a customer. So it's always interesting to see how you decide, okay, we know this might be useful, but let's focus on this. Let's do this. And TradersPost a year from now, it's going to be pretty substantially different than what it is right now in a way that I'm not sure I can anticipate.
I think that's true. We are very driven by customer feedback, and we have a lot of customers on the platform now. So there's a lot of voices that we're listening to. What we hear the most is what usually ends up on the roadmap. So if you're interested in seeing us head down a certain path, we're all ears. We're always listening to feedback.
Speaking of what comes up the most, I'll just throw this question in here that comes up constantly every week, which is, when Interactive Brokers futures? Is that coming down the pike? Is there any possibility for that?
I think we've mentioned this before in the past. This is really a regulatory problem on the side of Interactive Brokers. Our last conversation with them was that they needed to forward the operator ID off to the CME or the CBOE or COMEX, whoever the futures contract is executed through, and they didn't have that enhancement made on their side that could verify that the trade was actually executed by the end user and not by TradersPost. Right now, it looks like we're the operator, and that's not the correct way for it to be done with the regulators or with the clearinghouses or with the futures exchanges. So there's a little bit of a regulatory timeline involved and a development timeline involved on Interactive Broker's side in order to solve the problem. And then once that's available, we'll continue our conversations with them and try to expand to futures on IBKR.
Excellent. Yeah, I know we've entered it again and again, but every week when I see the question, I go, okay, so someone else wants it.
Yeah, it's definitely not a development roadblock on our side. We'd love, in fact, it was like 98% done. John can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but like we were ready to launch it, and we had to stop and cease operations because IBKR said that they weren't ready from a regulatory standpoint.
All right, next up. All right, this is a scenario that occurred. I have an order here for $3.06 with a stop of $3.02. However, it appears the stop order never filled and the stock is now at $2.50. How did this happen? What can I do to ensure my small orders are filled? So I just want to add a little color to this.
Yes,
For
please.
this particular user, what happened was that they were sending a stop limit order, and the stop and the limit order were the exact same price.
Okay.
And so when the price was hit, by the time I was trying to fill the limit order, the price was already beyond what where they would have been filled. So the recommendation to them was to, hey, set your stop a little bit before where you expect the limit price to be, so that you have a better chance of being filled.
Yeah. So this is a slippage issue, or really an execution failure issue. I've had this happen many times in the past in many different markets, and it's oftentimes why some traders choose to use stop market orders so that they can guarantee they'll get an exit. Because there's nothing more frustrating than expecting a limit order to execute, but price falls fast enough that you never get a fill. And then you're just stuck there with that limit order that never gets filled. If that is indeed the case here, that is a known quantity, especially in systematic strategies where you will want to stay on top of that. And if there's there's sort of two different scenarios to deal with here. If it's a thin market with a lot of or a very low amount of liquidity, you don't necessarily want a market order because you could end up getting a really, really bad execution, right? Where you lose all your profit on the trade. So with in some instances, you may want to split your size up over multiple limit orders, and you'll have to exit the order manually. But this kind of like fits squarely into that category of, this is why things are never truly fully automated. You do need to keep an eye on orders because sometimes these types of events will take place.
I've never really understood why anyone uses a stop limit order with the same price for both. Like, just a limit order satisfies that sort of idea. Like, I only ever use a stop limit order when I'm trying to get a pullback trade. So I go, okay, I'm waiting for the price to move up. I'll be on a certain level, and then that's the stop. And then the limit is, hey, it might be VWAP, it might be some moving average or lower down. That's where I want it to be filled at. So I just don't understand the scenario where you need a stop limit order and both of them are the same price. It seems like a mistake to me.
Well, it depends on your execution requirements, but like you may want to stop limit order with an additional price because you actually want to sell into the ask side, right? So you could decide that you want to put the limit order below the trigger price, but you can also put it above the trigger price. You probably shouldn't do that, but you can. It just depends on how you want to exit that position. In some cases, people want that ability to choose. If you choose a limit order, though, depending on the scenario here, you may still need to choose that stop order type with the broker, because choosing just a limit order by itself would have to be above the market price, not below the market price.
That's right. Okay, perfect. Yeah, John suggested here that perhaps that user just selected the wrong order type, and that can occur. I had a nice conversation with a client the other day. He could not understand the difference between a stop order, and a limit order. And I think the word stop there is the thing that that trips a lot of people up. They don't necessarily understand what that means. I thought it was pretty funny. It took about 15 minutes, and he's like, okay, well, I trust that you understand what you're talking about. I was like, buddy,
Oh, no.
if we're having a problem here at the stop limit order type.
Wait a minute. No, you should understand, not just me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Next up. Okay, this is my question. My Binance API, so this happened to me. My Binance API keys showed as expired when trying to send a trade. How often do I have to refresh my keys? on Binance specifically?
I
I don't
guess
think
this
it's
is a
a
change. Yeah. I
because
believe I believe 90 days is what their documentation says. John, can you chime in
yeah.
on this one? I'm not actually certain. My understanding was there was no expiration date as of several years ago when I was using Binance, but I'm at least from what I did from a quick Google search here that that may have changed in 2021. So
I looked it up before and it said 90 days. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm doing something wrong here where the keys I put in is from a sub account. So I don't know if that makes any difference, but I don't think so. And there was no restrictions on the API keys there. So I was like, okay, maybe I did something wrong. Um, Especially since I was like messing around with I mean, I guess sometimes I'm trying to break the system or whatever. I was recreating webhooks and I was sending JSON payloads that were wrong. I was just doing all kinds of things that were like giving me error messages, like understandably. And I wondered if I did something strange with Binance. My initial concern was that the uh, as a Canadian, I'm not supposed to be like I can't use Binance US. And
right.
so I have to use a VPN. So I didn't know if when I normally access Binance, so I didn't know if like that was an issue because my account somehow was for Canada and Binance is. So I wasn't sure what was going on.
Got it. So it looks like the one exception to this rule is that if you create the API key with a whitelisted set of IP addresses, then the permission will not expire. But if you don't, then it will expire every 90 days and you'll have to reset it. So to circumvent this problem, I think what we'll do is take note of this question and the fact that the IP addresses are required. And we should be able to surface all of the API key, or excuse me, all of the IP addresses that would be coming from TradersPost. And then you can whitelist those IP addresses in Binance to ensure that that can remain open indefinitely. At least that's my takeaway from this. I'll chat with John and see if we can add this to the roadmap.
Awesome. Peter says, I know I don't know what those terms are when it comes to the stop losses, stop limits, the whole thing. I'll have to teach
Yeah, I think that is a good content idea, though, to cover all the different order types, particularly around how TradersPost actually handles them. Because there's a lot of questions we've been getting lately about algorithmic orders, like what happens after my order gets executed if the broker doesn't offer bracket trades, for example. We don't currently have the functionality to put those bracket trades in place for them, and those would be referred to as algorithmic orders. So we have a lot to cover on that subject, I think.
Okay, perfect. Okay, next up. How should I think about troubleshooting an insufficient funds error message when I do have enough in my account? This comes up every now and then where um, there's some sort of issue where that error message is coming up. The user thinks, hey, no, I have this balance here, but that's not the case. Could you run through maybe one or two scenarios where you might get that message even though you think you have the funds in your account?
It's usually a margin problem. It's usually in the context of a futures account or an options account, and a misunderstanding about what the notional size of those positions are and whether you have enough margin to cover the position. So in the option scenario, I might want to trade, let's say, SPY options that cost $2.12 at the current, like the current premium is $2.12. But it's not just $2.12. It's $2.12 multiplied by 100 shares. So the actual cost of that contract ends up being $212. Well, if I have a $100 account, the broker is not going to allow me to access $212 of notional value with $100 in the account. Similar thing with futures. The margin requirement to open a position might be $1,700, but the notional size is well above my margin requirements. Or let's say I add 2 or 3 contracts to the account, I'm going to bump up against that margin requirement pretty quickly, and that'll cause my account to get liquidated or the order to be rejected. It's the same thing with stocks too. If you're trying to buy too many shares in the account, obviously you'll run up against that error. I'm not sure which scenario this one occurred under. It would be easier to answer the question if we knew the exact scenario, but the most common one that I see is options.
I understand. Okay. Yeah. So I forgot to note the specific case for that. Just also to remember that the error messages that show up inside the dashboard, there's often a more info button at the top right next to the error message. And you click on that, gives you a mold box with plenty of more information to help you contextualize what's going on. And so be sure to click on the more info button just to get more in-depth view into an error. All right. So how can I make my take profit and stop loss relative to the price at which my market order was filled? This is from SMA XOR on Discord. Is there a way of doing that so that the price is also relative? He was saying that he would send a take profit and stop loss initially with the order, but since the with a market order, but since he didn't know where he would be filled, sometimes it'd be way off, like what he would expect when the take profit and stop loss were hit. So, is there any way for relative positioning for those orders?
Um,
So that we take the fill price for the stock market for the market order, the initial
mhm.
entry, and then the take profit and stop loss are relative to that number.
Yeah, this is an example of the type of algorithmic order I was referring to earlier. We don't currently monitor for the fill or the execution to determine what the average entry price is to then make those estimations on the take profit and the stop loss orders, which is why we rely on the price that the user sends over. Now, assuming that there's some significant slippage between the price that's in the signal and the execution price that you actually receive, it can cause the stop loss and take profit to be slightly off. It's an improvement we'd like to make in the future, but we've got some work to do to figure out how to implement it.
Cool. Hey, did you ever see? I was taking a look at Top Step, and it looks like because I thought as a Canadian I couldn't have a TradeOvate account, but Top Step states that because they're the ones connecting to the TradeOvate account, that I can actually have an account with them. So I'm like pretty excited to give that a try this week, that I can actually use that prop firm account. But while I was looking at that, like, I don't know if you've tried this, but TopStep apparently has an add-on that can be added to TradingView. Like, it creates an add-on tab inside of the bottom of TradingView
Hmm.
that allows for management of some positions. I was like, hey, can we make an add-on for TradersPost where we're integrated within the interface of TradingView in some way? Like, have you heard about this? Have you tried this with TopStep?
I haven't. I'd like to take a look at it, and I would love to explore an integration with TradingView. There's plenty of opportunities to explore there. We've discussed whether or not TradersPost can be integrated as a broker, which it cannot because we're not a regulated entity. But perhaps there's another technological path there.
To me, it's like we were talking about, I think last week.
Are you sure it's not like a
Creating.
Chrome extension or something? Are they just
Yeah,
modifying the
I think it
page?
is. Yeah, I think it's a Chrome extension that
Oh,
then
okay. In that case, then
modifies
yeah,
the thing.
we can definitely do
I
that.
was like, oh, that would be pretty fun to try out.
Yeah.
Um, but there's a journaling system. I guess in TradingView, I had tried it a couple of years ago. I didn't really like. I wasn't
Their
really married
notes.
to it. The notes, yeah. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I wonder if those could be sent. If like somehow those could be sent with a webhook over to over the Traders Post, and then that's like part of the trade journaling system. Like
Yeah.
revive their note taking system and actually use it for something that's worthwhile. It's like, oh my god, different kinds of integrations there with a Chrome extension might be pretty interesting.
I think so
I
too.
might give that a try.
We've got some pretty cool analytics stuff coming down the pike, and one of the things that we're incorporating there is tagging availability to your trades so that you can tag and categorize them in a certain way. So in theory, that would kind of allow you to do a little bit of micro journaling within your trades by labeling them a specific way. And then of course we'll surface up all of the performance of each of those trades in the future. But being able to do that from an extension embedded on the page would be pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. If I manually close a position I open through Traders Post, does the closing data show in my backend?
What do they
So
mean their backend?
oh, sorry, in the backend of Traders Post. So if the order initially came through because Traders Post opened it up, a webhook signal came through, but then on my phone I
It
closed the
will.
position.
It
It
will.
will show up.
It'll only show up under the broker orders, not in the trades of your strategy. So there's kind of two different ways to get through the door, right? One is we pull back the history of the orders with the broker when you view that page when you view a broker page and you look at the order section of that broker integration. But if you're looking for the trade to show up, that's not going to be there because you took the trade outside of TradersPost.
Understood. Okay, perfect. All right, so it's been fun. I got to say, this has been the first. That's the extent of the questions we have for this week. But I wanted to mention that this has been the first week where I've tried to do something, from my perspective, pretty robust with sending dozens of signals to and tracking hundreds of coins on TradingView to send the signals over to TradersPost.
Yeah, how's
And
your
what's been
queuing system
fun,
going?
well, what's fun is that there's been zero problem on TradersPost, like none whatsoever. But I'm running into issues with TradingView where you can. I guess I always assume that there's this memory limit with Pine Script strategies or any Pine Script strategies or indicators, and I'm used to hitting that memory limit thing if I'm trying to do too much in a given moment. I save the script, it runs, and after a few seconds or whatever, it hits this limit. But the way that I'm doing it, because it's queuing it over time, I'm hitting the memory limit 2 days after I've started my tracking, because it's looping through hundreds and eventually it gets to the point. I was like, no, there has to be another way of going about this. So what I would love is to be able to, I mean, it's sort of hacky and maybe I should find a way off TradingView to do it, but to have multiple of the signals, like start multiple versions of this alert, but that to have some way where I can send a message to TradersPost that says, hey, I'm sending like this webhook to open this trade like multiple times, and I only want it to fill the first time you're getting an entry order for this. Like if it's tagged with the same property in the JSON payload, then it goes, okay, I'll only fill one of these. But now I'm in like a hacky way of going about it. What, I'm going to send 5 signals for the same trade again, and then TradersPost got to figure out what's going. Like that's not a use case. So I'll try to figure out some other way of going about it. But I thought I was like so clever, and now I have to like, I got to find some other way of just like getting around that hub.
Have you considered using Quant Connect to put together your strategy? Because I mean, ultimately, what you're describing is something that could be queued up in a much more memory efficient way, in a more Pythonic or C# based environment, where you can manage those sequence of webhook alerts a little differently, and then actually send them all at once as well. Because you're in Python, you could effectively send them all simultaneously. But when it comes to like really comprehensive scenarios like this, TradingView has its limitations. So I find myself looking to Quant Connect to solve some of these problems.
I'm trying to get like, does Quant Connect have access to the crypto data for, let's say, all of Binance coins?
Yep.
Okay.
You may have to pay
All
for
right.
it. No, I don't think you have to pay for it. You may have to pay for it. I can't remember if it's a paid provider or not.
But I have to translate my strategy to whatever language this is written in, right?
It'd have to be Python. Yeah.
Oh, that's fine. I can do
Yeah.
Python.
Yeah.
All right, I'll give that a try.
Yeah.
There's
Give it a
something
go.
right. There's something cute to me, like like back in the days when on my TI-81 Texas Instrument calculator, I'm running, Mega Man that I wrote.
Yeah, exactly.
There's something.
We found the physical limitations of it.
Yeah. I remember once I was my teacher found out I was cheating, or the kids in the class found out I was cheating on my math test because of all the information. And I had built a program with my calculator to give the answers, and the teacher's like, if he's to the point where this is what he's doing, he can pass the test. It's fine. You let him cheat with what he's doing. It's way harder than the test. All right.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
All right, so we'll leave it there for this week. I am very excited that we are doing the 3 days a week thing here. Office hours on Tuesdays. We're going to be here on Thursday with another walkthrough, an interesting walkthrough of what you can do with TradersPost and turning something into an automated strategy. And then Friday again, we'll be here for after hours to cover the market news from the point of view of algorithmic traders. It's a brand new world for TradersPost, and I'm glad that you guys are all here for the journey. Anything else you want to leave the people with before we leave, Mike?
I don't think so. These are good questions this week.
Excellent, perfect. And I think I forgot to send John the link to join today, but glad to see him in the chat, and we'll have him on next week because soon we're going to be having new features added to the platform, and it's going to be nice to have him walk through it.
Yeah, our upcoming releases are going to be packed. I'm having a hard time keeping track of everything we're about to release.
Excellent, great problem to have.
Good problem to have.
All right, so folks.